Welcome to the Emotional Eating Unwrapped podcast. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, an emotional eating and weight loss coach for women looking to fall in love with eating, create healthy attachments with food, and lose weight sustainably. Hello and welcome to another new episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, and today we're going to be talking about something that I am excited about. I'm excited to dive into this because I have gotten so many comments and questions about this, whether it's on social media or whether it's women that I work with in my programs, but it brings a lot of shame. And so I'm excited I'm bringing it to the fore. We're talking about body dysmorphia today and what that is, why it's something that women carry with so much shame. And I think it's just something that I think a lot of women feel like they just shouldn't be feeling. And it's not always loud, it's not always diagnosable, but it still impacts the way that we move around, right? The way we move in the world, the way we eat, the way we dress, the way we date, right? The way we relate to our body every single day. And when we get to the root of it, the core of it, it's the constant feeling that what you see in the mirror is never quite enough. That's really what the crux of body dysmorphia is. It's like a low-grade anxiety, right? It's like a low-grade anxiety that comes when you see your reflection in the window as you walk down the street and there's a black window and you could see a reflection and you take a glance and you kind of get this low-grade kind of stomach drop moment, right? Or it's a critical voice that zooms in on your stomach or your arms or your thighs before you even realize it. Or maybe there's this ongoing quiet calculation that you have in your brain that if you could just lose X amount of pounds, you'd feel better. And it's not this kind of extreme thing that's obvious to the naked eye. In fact, like for many women, right, a lot of smart, high-functioning women that are caught in this cycle of emotional eating, dieting, body dysmorphia can actually feel really normal, really familiar, because it isn't, like I said, always extreme. And so I want to talk about how we can understand body dysmorphia more when it comes to especially women who in their lives are so high functioning, because it's really important to realize that this happens because you don't have to be in crisis to be disconnected from your body. Right? It doesn't have to be a rock bottom. It doesn't have to be an obsession. Body dysmorphia isn't just for people who are addicted to plastic surgery or are consistently body and mirror checking. Sometimes it's just a chronic dissatisfaction with how you look, and therefore your behaviors become more disciplined in order to fix it, right? There's motivations for certain discipline that are rooted in this dissatisfaction with your body image that might not, that isn't an extreme thing, right? It's not extreme. It's just this low key, low grade dissatisfaction. So this might look like, a woman who has to work out every single day of the week. And when she doesn't work out, it impacts her mood. It impacts her ability to connect with people. It impacts her ability to go about her day. Like maybe she'll cancel plans, right? This could be someone who tracks everything she eats. And regardless of what you're doing, you still feel like your body is betraying you. And the belief that is somewhere in there, right, somewhere subconscious, or you might even be conscious of it, is if I could just fix my body, then I would feel happy. I would feel worthy. I feel safe. I could finally relax, right? I could finally rest, because this consistent hypervigilance about your body and this consistent kind of obsession or wanting and fix certain things about your body, it is really tiring. And what makes it even more confusing is that from the outside, you most likely look absolutely fine. You might even get compliments from people, which only deepens, right? It only deepens this dissonance because the way that you feel in your body, it's not matching the way that other people see you. And that could create a lot of existential confusion. So, what happens, right? What happens? How does this relate to emotional eating? How does this connect? Because what happens when your body doesn't match the fantasy? Right? What happens? What happens is we try to control, we try to fix. And for so many of us, that fixing happens through food because food is substantial. It's a substance. It's an easy thing to manipulate. So we restrict, but then the restriction becomes too much. So we binge, we punish, we make these silent negotiations and deals with ourselves. Like, I'll be good this week. I'll eat clean until the weekend. I'll skip a meal to make up for fill in the blank, right? It becomes this emotional war between the version of you that you think you should be and the version of you who is really just trying to be and just like live. And so food becomes both the villain, but also the escape. Sometimes it's, sometimes it's something that we run to, and sometimes it's something that we avoid. And it creates this loop, right? Like, I don't like what I see, then I try to control, but then I feel deprived, then I break the rules, and then I binge or overeat, then I feel ashamed, and then I start all over, right? This is the loop. And if it sounds familiar, I want to just normalize for you that this is not a discipline thing. This is not that you lack discipline at all. It's just that your body has become this battlefield for emotional pain that was never yours to carry in the first place. A lot of times, body dysmorphia is really just a symptom of a lot of messages and a lot of subliminal messages, a lot of cultural messages, a lot of familial messages, a lot of, social stimuli that we've gotten that, that ends up presenting itself in the form of body dysmorphia. And so it's really important to keep coming back to the real reality that the mirror doesn't always reflect you, right? The mirror isn't the reality, right? The mirror doesn't reflect you, right? Like your beingness, right? Like you as a woman. It doesn't even usually reflect your actual physical state, right? Your actual physical body. It reflects your state, right? It reflects your mental and emotional state. So you see things differently depending on your stress level, depending on your circadian rhythm, your sleep, your menstrual cycle, your mood, right? Your hormones. I remember what it felt like to be stuck in the cycle of emotional eating. I tried every diet out there, counting, tracking, restricting, but nothing ever worked. Food controlled my life, my thoughts, and I constantly felt guilty after eating. But once I learned how to heal the emotional triggers behind my eating and trust my body, everything changed. I stopped obsessing over food, the weight started coming off naturally, and I found real freedom in how I ate and lived. So I created the Sober Eating year-long mentorship to help other women experience the same transformation. So you can stop battling with food, you can lose weight without deprivation, and you can feel confident in your body again. In this mentorship, you'll have access to my proven nervous system rewiring method. You'll have access to live coaching with me, weekly accountability, and a community of women who truly understand your journey. You'll also have free access to my signature programs, the Emotional Eating Solution and Decoding Permanent Weight Loss, valued at $2,000. Click the link in the show notes to explore the mentorship today. You don't have to do this alone. I'll be right there with you every step of the way. Right? There are times where I look in the mirror and I don't, and I could feel worse about my body, and then I put on my clothes and it feels the same. Right? And there are times when I know that I'm feeling exhausted, emotionally raw, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I 100% perceive myself so much more critically than when I'm not in that state. And additionally, if you grew up in an environment where love or approval or safety or recognition or validation were tied to how you looked, then the mirror became a measuring stick for belonging, right? For belonging, for actually feeling like you belong in a tribe. This is what we need as humans. And this is not your fault, right? This symptom that is body dysmorphia, this symptom of all of these things, these external applications that impact our relationship with how we see our bodies, right? It's not your fault. It's not our fault. However, it is our responsibility, and it is your responsibility to start seeing through it. Right? It is your responsibility to start, being able to say, yep, this is body dysmorphia, this isn't real, and start to create space between the illusion and what truly is reality, and recognize what's going on underneath. Because until you understand that your body image is filtered through conditioning, through trauma, through nervous system dysregulation, until you realize that and start to, navigate that and create capacity for that, you'll keep chasing a version of yourself that doesn't exist. That's the truth. You'll keep staying in that loop. So until you start to be able to rise above the energies that are causing the dysmorphia, you will continue to be a slave to this cycle. Okay, but there's good news here. There's good news here, everyone. The good news is you don't have to love every part of your reflection to be at peace with your body. You don't. You don't. Because real healing, it doesn't start with your reflection, it starts beneath it. I definitely do not love every part of my body every day. I don't. There are some things that I don't love. I'm not a big fan of, toxic positivity or telling yourself you feel good about something when you don't. But it's okay. You can not like certain parts of yourself and still not fall into that cycle of body dysmorphia that leads to the emotional eating, dieting loop. And so both things can be true at once, right? You could recognize that there's something that's not looking great to you in your reflection, but you can also choose to focus on healing what's beneath that and moving your energy and moving your, where you're putting your effort to love yourself somewhere else. And it starts by asking questions like, how do I feel? What does my body need? You're trying to take the focus away from the control and more into the compassion, more into the curiosity, more into the kindness, and really starting to, instead of seeing your body as an object, you start seeing your body as a home. And in order to see your body as a home, you have to start treating it and creating a dynamic with it where it does feel more like a home than an object. And ways that you can start to create that home feeling, even if you don't love everything in the reflection, is by starting to do practices that show you different value adds of your body, right? Different ways that your body provides for you other than just an image. And practices like breath work do this, body scans, yoga, just feeling, walking meditation so you can feel your feet on the ground. And so you start to check in with your felt sense rather than just your appearance. And when you start to check in with your felt sense, appreciation and gratitude starts to arise. And it starts to almost crowd out the dysmorphia. I'm not saying that it's going to substitute it or replace it, but it starts to crowd it out. And that's really all we need sometimes. There's a teaching. I'm not sure if it's a teaching, but there's something that one of my meditation teachers taught me a while back, and I never forgot it because I think it's so valuable. But in one of the talks that they had, they were telling us how if you have a small cup of water, like one of those little cups of water, and you drop a blue dot of dye in that cup of water, it will turn the whole thing blue. However, if you put that same blue dot of dye into a huge container of water, you won't really see the blue, right? So you're not taking away the blue dye, you're just adding in more water. So that's what we're doing here. We're not making the body dysmorphia feelings wrong. We're just adding in more things so that we can crowd out the dysmorphia feeling. And the more that you check in with yourself in this way, the more that you engage in behaviors and activities that create more self-love authentically from this felt sense where you start to appreciate your body in this new way, you'll find that you really start to loosen the intensity around the power that you feel the body dysmorphia has on your life and your choices and your actions. And you'll begin to trust yourself again. And you'll begin to feel safer. Right? And you'll begin to eat in a way that is self-honoring. You'll at least move in that direction, because you're not going to be eating on some autopilot or, some rule-based or some punishing, with like a punishing intention. Okay, so here's what I want to leave you with today. The mirror is not always telling the truth. Okay, the mirror does not always tell the truth. And the image that you're seeing in the mirror or in your reflection, wherever you're seeing your reflection, is shaped by your nervous system, your history, your emotions. But the feeling that you can create in your body that could end up crowding out and even maybe overriding the body dysmorphia, the feeling that you create in your body, that's yours. That's real. And that's where the freedom is. That's where the freedom truly comes from. Okay, because when you start focusing on how you feel in your body, not just based on how you look, right? Your feelings are not just going to be determined by your reflection. They're going to be determined by how your body shows up for you, and different other appreciations that you have for your body, clarity, confidence, and that feeling of connection to yourself naturally follow, and so do eating habits that are more self-honoring. And if you're somebody who is looking to evolve your body and weight loss in any way, doing it from this place will give you a lot more likelihood of long-term success in that as well. All right. Thank you so much for listening today. I really appreciate it. If you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe, give us a like. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please follow us there as well. And until next time, I'm Alana, and thank you for listening to Emotional Eating Unwrapped.